Former US intelligence contractor Edward Snowden has been granted Russian citizenship. Snowden was the whistleblower who leaked classified documents of the National Security Agency, revealing the extent of snooping by the US state. The decree was signed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Snowden, who's 39 years old and has been living in exile in Russia since exposing the NSA program affecting millions of Americans from 2013 onwards. Snowden faces espionage charges in the United States. He has said that he's happy to receive Russian citizenship as this will enable his family to be together. Back in 2020, Snowden had said that he and his then pregnant wife were applying for Russian citizenship in order not to be separated from their future son. And this, of course, was in the era of pandemics and closed borders. Russia granted him permanent residency rights that same year in 2020, and that, of course, has paved the way now for him to obtain Russian citizenship. He said, and I quote, "After years of separation from our parents, my wife and I have no desire to be separated from our son." That is how Snowden reacted after the grant of Russian citizenship. Snowden's name was part of a list of 72 foreign-born individuals for whom Vladimir Putin was granting citizenship. But the question is still pertinent. Why is Edward Snowden being granted citizenship, and why is it happening now? On Crux Decode, could Edward Snowden have revealed classified information to Putin, something that could have a direct or indirect bearing on the ongoing special military operation in Ukraine? Putin's decree to grant Snowden citizenship quickly led to many quips on social media. Many were asking whether the whistleblower could soon be conscripted into the Russian army. Remember, last week, Vladimir Putin had announced a partial mobilization to fight in Ukraine. This was part of Russia's nationwide partial military draft. Will Snowden be mobilized? That was the big question being asked on Russian state media as well as on social media. Snowden's Russian lawyer, Anatoly Kucherena, told the state news agency RIA Novosti that his client could not be drafted into the military because he had previously not served in the Russian armed forces. He also added that Snowden's wife, Lindsay Mills, was also applying for Russian citizenship. The whistleblower, Edward Snowden, has largely kept a low profile while he's been living in Russia these past few years. He does, though, occasionally keep posting photographs of his family in Moscow on his social media accounts. He had said back in 2019 that he was willing to return to the United States if he were guaranteed a fair trial. Snowden, who has previously criticized the Kremlin's human rights record, has not said anything in public since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In fact, prior to the war, he had repeatedly voiced doubts on whether Russia would attack Ukraine at all. In fact, he repeatedly blamed the Western media for pushing Russia into the conflict. But one thing that is interesting is the timing of Russia's decision to grant Snowden citizenship. Why now? Why in the middle of an ongoing conflict? And that too, at a time when Putin is feeling the pressure of recent losses in Kharkiv and in Donbass. It was, as one analyst put it, rather curious timing. It raises the question again of just what Snowden has shared with the Russians. Now, it is highly unlikely that Edward Snowden has any current information that may be materially important to the course of the Ukraine war. Russia has been under the pump, so much so that it's called for a new national draft, even if it's a partial one, and not ruling out a full draft at a later stage if it came down to that. The images of young Russians fleeing the country at various land borders and through flights, that's not helped Putin's case either. Snowden has denied cooperating with Russian intelligence. He simply says he was traveling through Moscow when the United States revoked his passport, and thereby he had to put his roots down there. Previously, Snowden had also built a backup of US NSA intrusive systems, both using phone as well as internet records of ordinary American citizens. Now, the grant of his citizenship and the timing of that is raising a curious question. Is it possible that Edward Snowden and the backup systems that he built are still able to ferret out information that is relevant to today's war. What he could possibly offer the Russians by way of information is the structure as well as the reporting of US intelligence agencies, particularly when it comes to the Russia counter-espionage operations. Snowden leaked documents on the National Security Agency's collection of data, the passing through of critical infrastructure using both phone and internet companies. He also revealed details about classified US intelligence budget and the extent of American surveillance, both on its own citizens as well as on foreign officials. And mind you, some of these foreign officials were key allies of America. Snowden has said that he made these disclosures because he believed that the US intelligence community had gone too far and wrongly infringed on civil liberties. He's also said that he doesn't believe the administration of former President Barack Obama, which is when Snowden made these leaks, would have ever given him a fair and impartial inquiry. Snowden's decision to turn against the NSA came when he used his programming skills basically to create a repository of classified in-house notes. What he did essentially was to build a backup system for all of the agency's data. He wrote about this in very great detail in his 2019 book, Permanent Record. Reading through the repository, Snowden said he began to understand the extent of his own government's stomping on civil liberties and became cursed with that knowledge that all Americans had been reduced to something like children. Children who had been forced to live the rest of their lives under the omniscient parental supervision. Snowden was charged back in 2013 with unauthorized disclosure of US national security and intelligence information, as well as theft of government property. The three charges each carry a maximum penalty of 10 years. The Justice Department also sued Snowden to stop him from collecting profits from his memoir, saying that he had violated his non-disclosure agreements with the intelligence agencies. Now, back in 2020, the NSA surveillance of millions of Americans' telephone records was ruled unlawful by the US Court of Appeals. Snowden said after that ruling that he felt vindicated. Top US intelligence officials had publicly insisted that the NSA never knowingly collected data from private phone records until Snowden exposed this fraud. Following the revelation, officials said that the NSA surveillance program had played a crucial role in fighting domestic terrorism, including the convictions of Basili Said Moallin, Ahmed Nasir Talil, and Mohammed Mahmoud, as well as Isa Dore for providing aid to Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia. So whatever be the motivation of why Putin and Russia are granting Snowden citizenship right now, it certainly did help take away some of the attention from the negative stories that we're seeing after Putin's draft announcement and after the recent reverses that the Russian military has faced in Kharkiv as well as in Donbass.